Okay, as usual, we would like some of you guys to introduce yourself. We have a few new people. Azura, it says next door. I don't believe that's your name, and then it says Vin. So maybe we will ask next door to introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I will change my name first. Yeah, that's the best introduction. My name is May. You see it. Yeah. So and I started Nextdoor 1 year ago, and it's specialized in education, but mainly for the young teenagers. But I'm very interested in the development or growth of children. So I come from Netherlands, and
Netherlands.
That's why I want to go back, and we help young people to connect the dots in their lives, and to help especially to connect the schools with companies. And we create very great challenges and interesting experiences with companies to provide young people a lot of new information and new experiences to fund their pathway in their future. So, but I'm just, I saw this webinar, I think to help the teenagers, it's also good to know, and the phases before that, and to get more knowledge. I'm always very interested in the growth of people and children. So that's why I participate. It's new for me. I'm very curious.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. What about Vin? I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. Vin, quick introduction from you.
Hi, I'm an early childhood educator. So I was working in the early childcare centers for a couple of years. And then I zoned in as an art educator for young ones. And then right now I'm looking into focusing in on teaching English for young ones.
Oh, very nice. Vin, you're from Singapore, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the accent gives it away. Okay, there is Azura here as well. If you can be, it'll be nice if we can turn on your camera, but if you couldn't, you can just introduce yourself.
I'm so sorry, I'm not so ready to show my face off tonight. But you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm here because supporting Dr. Kathryn. Happy birthday, Dr. Kathryn. Okay, I'm Azura from Kuala Lumpur. I'm a head of early childhood education program in Veritas University College. So I manage undergraduate program for early childhood education. So yeah, it would be interesting to hear from all of you. I mean, different perspective, on early childhood, and what picked me up tonight is on the glorified babysitter, because I like that word, so I need to know more about it. Yeah, right.
We're gonna get.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Can find me. My half face. All right.
We're going to start off by calling what you call distress calls. That's how we're going to start, because we're going to talk to Kathy later. But we're going to start off with what you call distress calls in the early childhood educational environment. What are the various distress calls? What are the calls for concern in this particular learning age group, shall we call it, or learning a journey of a young person? Okay, before we go into what you call the glorified babysitter part, what are the distress calls? What are the problems? So we want 2 problems, and then after that, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and then we are going to discuss the problems and a solution. Last week, we had a little problem where we talked about the problem for the entire 5 minutes. This time, we will do a little bit of time management there, and we'll say solutions as well. So what do you think are 2 distress calls? What do you think? Anybody?
Can you give me a definition of distress call?
Distress call is basically, it's a call for concern. Hey, the early childhood educational scene is not good because of, we are having trouble in the early childhood education. Things could be done better, but this is happening. Something wrong is happening. Why? What is that distress call? Okay, I had a chance to work with a particular early childhood educational team about 2 years ago. They felt that there was a lack of professionalism among early childhood educators. Right? But now, Dave, you can go for one.
I think it's underestimating the child's intelligence.
Is that a distress call, you think? So basically what you are saying is the teachers or the entire system is underestimating the child's intelligence, and therefore we are doing too much scaffolding. Is that what you're saying? Possibly?
It's like we're treating them like, oh, come on, sit down here, or do this, do that, and all. It's so much passive instructions, you know, and because of that, like, we feel that we are pushing down their creativity.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to word it in a particular way. I think Hai should try to word it in a particular way as distress call number 1. We'll go for distress call number 2 now. Oh, there you go. We got Mei Yang.
Yeah, I think because I come from, I have backgrounds in China, and there I see the high expectation from parents. I think that's a very key factor. And
distress call number 2 is a very high expectation from parents. So what is going to happen right now is Haish is going to break us up into 2 groups. First, you will go into distress call 1. Second one, you'll go to distress call 2, and then we'll switch over. The group who was in distress call 1 will come to distress call 2, and then we'll come back. When we come back from both distress calls, we're going to discuss. And hopefully, we will have some nice solutions. So distress call number 1 is underestimating the child's ability. Distress call number 2 is high expectation from parents. Okay, any parents here besides me? Kathy, are you a parent? You're a parent as well. So we have 3 sets of parents. Do we have high expectations?
Yeah.
Can I ask? Is it high expectations of parents on the teachers, like on the educators, or on the kids?
Both.
Or just generally?
yeah, I think high expectations for their child, then it will always linked to the teachers, I think.
Okay. Okay, breakout room time, Haish, in what? How long? Oh, you need 5 minutes to break us up, is it?
No. It's going to break out now. So breakout room 1, right? You'll be doing distress call 1, which is the underestimating the child's ability. And breakout room 2, you'll be tackling the second one.
2 complete opposites. 3 new people to see Kathy.
Oh, that's nice.
Hi, Azura. Now you're presentable, I guess. Presentable.
She's gotten brave now.
She's gotten brave. Okay, now let's talk the first one. Distress call number 1. Somebody share.
Okay, so basically my group was, the good thing is for both topics we're on the same page. So I was sharing that, I think a lot of adults in Singapore always underestimate a child's ability. Okay, so we were talking about how there's a huge jump between a 6 to 7 year old kid in Singapore. So basically from kindergarten to primary 1. And from a playful environment, it goes down to a very passive learning environment. And we always feel the need to tell them what to do rather than allowing them to be proactive. You know, so we don't give them the space to try something and succeed or fail at it. You know, at least when they fail at it, us educators can come in and kind of share what's the better way to, you know, solve that problem. But if we don't even allow them to try and we just teach them, we never know where their knowledge is. You know, so that's what I meant by underestimating the child's ability, which happens a lot between in the school system over here.
Who's next? Anybody just jump in and talk? If you want to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. We'll point towards you. Anyone? If not, I'll be forced to point.
I'll do it. I don't want that finger pointing, Gabe. I think, Dave, to build on what you were saying, it's about having the confidence in the children and appreciating that they can think for themselves and that they can be creative and they can use their imagination, and giving them opportunities so that they can demonstrate that and have the opportunity to problem solve and make decisions and communicate with each other and collaborate and have those opportunities so that they're seen as more capable and competent, because what happens really, I think, is it comes down to the image that you have of children as the teacher or as the parent. So if as the adult, if you're thinking that the child is innocent and doesn't know anything, and it's your job to fill them up with all of this knowledge and information, well, that's how you teach, that's how you treat them, and that's how your classroom's set up, and that's how you teach them. But if you think that children are strong and capable and competent and are trustworthy and can think for themselves, you'll give them opportunities that are more open-ended, and the classroom, the way the classroom is set up will reflect that, and the way the outside spaces are used will reflect that, and the way the language that occurs in the classroom will reflect that. And I think children live up to the expectation or the standards that we place on them. So if we show them that we're confident in them, they will step up and they will act accordingly, particularly if we build those great relationships with them that we talked about last week when we were talking about the importance of relationships. If you build really good relationships with anybody, people will help you, or they'll do things with you, and they'll want to be around you. It's the same for children. If you build those good relationships with them, they'll do anything for you and participate in the classroom in a really healthy way.
Anybody else? Mia, what's from you?
Yeah, and I just also discussed with Finn and Dave, and I think I'm a parent just like you two. And what I shared is I think also we can learn so much from our children, how little they are, because they are not conditioned as we are. Just by asking them why, and give them the chance to explore it, and to ask them why did you do it that way? Maybe they will enrich our thinking, enrich our view. And I think I learned a lot. I told Dave and Finn, it's such enrichment to learn from them, because we cannot get that knowledge from anywhere else. So also for the early childhood educator, I think it's a great learning experience as well.
That's very nice. Anybody else that wants to talk about the two specific, what you call distress calls? We've got about a minute we can put aside for that.
Are we talking about the high expectations?
High expectations. Anyone?
No, I think I was telling my group the funny story about how a parent called me, and then I think she was asking about so I read about you on the website, and I see you do English, math, science, character development, skills, coding, robotics, and all that. I was like, okay, great. I said, we do all that, but can you share with me your child's age? And he said, he's 3.5. And I'm like, what? And they're supposed to be like falling down somewhere or like having fun and all that. What is this tuition at 3.5 years old?
But that's reality, right? That's reality right now. The number of people who are, my daughter is 2 years old. Can I enroll her next year? The number of people who have walked through our doors is pretty crazy.
I think we shouldn't stop the kids if they have the ability to do it. I mean, like for my daughter, she started reading at 2. And then I can see that she's more into reading and more into writing. So I support her that way. So it's not stopping her, but surrounding. Scaffolding. Basically directing her to the right way. But if let's say coding, I can see that she has the interest in coding, so I'll send that to Rahul if he is 2 years old. It's not we don't have to stop the kid if we can see they have the capability to do it, but it's not forcing. If they are not doing it, they cannot read, and suddenly I send her to the writing class, so it shouldn't be that way. But if I see her that she is, tuning into that way, that route, so I'll support her that way. So I think that's how it's supposed to be.
The day that conversation started with a lot of, I was asking about her concerns and all that. So she's coming from a very worried point of view. like, oh, you know, she's not understanding this, she's not understanding that, and all that. So that's when, like, after a long time, then when I asked the age, I was like, oh, okay. 3.5 years old.
Yeah.
Whereas our website clearly says 7 years old. So that was just.
Okay, awesome. And I thought before we jump into the conversation with Kathryn, we could get a quick introduction from Arun and Shraddha, if you guys are there. And Rashda, who just joined in. Shraddha, if you're there, could you do a quick introduction of yourself, please? Okay, I'm guessing she's not there. Arun, if you're there, can you do a quick introduction of yourself?
I'm here. I'm sorry, I'm here, but there is a noise around me, so I'm not able to unmute myself. Give me some 5 to 10 minutes time. I'll take my headphone and then join you.
Sure. What about you, Arun? If you're there, can you give a quick introduction, please?
Hi. Yes. So I'm just curious to know more about what you're going to be talking about. I'm currently a university student. Sorry, say again?
You're from Singapore.
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch you.
Are you from Singapore, Arun?
Yes, I am.
Man, this is a record. We've never had Singaporeans join us. Well done, guys. Okay, we have Ven and Arun. Well, that's a record, man. Maybe Rashda is also from Singapore. Sorry, Arun, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I'm a university student, and I do volunteer work, and that is about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more to you, but we'll find out more soon. What about Rashda? Rashda, are you there? Can you give a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, hello. Good evening and good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, Rashda here. I'm working in UAE as a SEN coordinator, and my field is special education. So yeah, looking forward to learn regarding in field of early education, which other the innovation areas, and how we can help more our tiny toddlers. Thank you for this webinar.
Very nice. I like the way you said tiny toddlers. It's like they're already toddlers, but they're tiny. Okay, but that's amazing. Okay, I would love to introduce to you a person that I have not known for a very, very long time, but the more I read about her, the more excited I get. Okay, I want to find out from her later on why she called her organization Future Strong Education. We can ask her later, and whatever questions you may have, please type it in there and I'll definitely ask Kathryn, and of course she can read it as well. She's been in this field for slightly more than 3 decades. See, that kind of strength and persistence and perseverance, that requires an award of some sort. But we have already sung her a very decent song, so that is award itself.
Yes, that was Happy Birthday for those who missed it.
We sang a very bad happy birthday song, but it was the spirit was there. And she's worked throughout the world. She's worked with families, she's worked with children, and managing parent expectations is one of her key strengths. And everyone, please put your hands together. A very 3 clap. Let's just do 3 claps welcoming Kathryn. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was very horrible.
Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment, Gabe. That's really lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Before we jump into the subject matter, which is glorified babysitters, is how early childhood education is defined sometimes. Kathryn, tell us, why did you name your organization Future
Strong Education?
Future Strong Education.
Because that's what I aim for. I aim to help support early childhood educators and parents to be the best that they can be, so they can support their children and give them opportunities so that they have a strong future. And I think education does that. By providing education, you build a strong future. And I see, our children as being our future politicians and decision makers. And if we can give them all the skills in the early years, well, then they're going to do a better job and save the planet and look after us when we're old and all of those sorts of things. If we give them a good grounding. So it's sort of like a projection, I guess, Future Strong Education. So.
Very nice. Now, when you say early childhood education, can we, for the audience sake, be specific about that age group? What would really be defined as early childhood?
Well, technically, early childhood is from birth through to 8 years of age. But depending on the country that you're in, some countries say that it's from conception through to 7. So it just depends, where you are in the world and what the whatever curriculum you're following. But generally, it's from birth to 8. That's sort of like an international accepted sort of age range for early childhood. And with early childhood, we have a bit of a bad rap sometimes. And the topic that Hayes suggested actually was that early childhood educators are just glorified babysitters. So unfortunately, I've come across that over and over again. And those of you who are on with us, if you're in the early childhood sector, maybe you've felt the same way, or maybe something similar has been said to you, or you've witnessed it somehow. But I just want to tell you a little story. When I was teaching, I'd been teaching in the early childhood years for about 10 years. And I had multiple degrees by 10 years' time. After being in the industry for 10 years, I had multiple degrees. And I was working in a preschool, which was attached to a primary school. So it was an organisation. And I had a parent evening. So I invited all the parents to come, and we talked about all of the things that the children are learning in the preschool. And we did some activities and sang a few songs, played a couple of games, as you do. And then everyone was just sort of mingling around. And one of the fathers came up to me and very seriously, serious face, just looked at me straight in the eye and said, how long have you been babysitting children? And I thought, are you serious? Are you ready? And I thought, wow. I mean, that's the perception. We'd just done a whole probably 45 minutes of explaining all of the learning that's happening in the room. The children's artwork was up. I was talking individually about the learning that's happening. And still, he thought I was a babysitter, and after multiple degrees. And so I very politely, as you can imagine, I very politely explained that I actually had a university degree and I wasn't a babysitter. I was actually a teacher. And he was surprised. And I'm wondering if at that time, if that was representative of the perception that society had of early childhood educators at that time. And I'm wondering if that's even changed now.
I think that was curious discussion. Does anybody, even you yourself, or does anybody feel that particular perception that we are glorified babysitters, has that changed, or is it remaining? What do you all think? Anybody else has got an opinion of that? And then I'll give you all 30 seconds to respond. If not, I'm going back to Kathryn again.
I did. I mean, like after school, I went straight away to early childhood education. I mean, like I've been teaching in a high school, and I went down to early childhood. So they were like looking down at me, like, why are you doing? I mean, like, they thought it's just feeding the baby, that kind of thing. But
nap time.
It's more than high school. I mean, like, it's more. We are doing more in early childhood. Yeah.
It's the beginning of life.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kathryn? Do you think it's still there, or do you think it has changed? Do you think it has gotten better?
Well, 20 years after that event, I was a consultant, and I was invited to go to an early childhood centre to present a professional development workshop around documenting children's learning and assessing children's learning. So I was invited to this place. And as I drove up to the early learning centre, I saw this group of women standing on the footpath, and they were all smoking, and they just had like pretty casual t-shirts on, and I don't know, in Australia we call them tracky dacks, but it's just like, sloppy pants on, like baggy pants. And, one woman had bright blue hair, and they were just all standing around. I thought, oh, the parents must have dropped their children off and they've come out and they're just having a conversation before they all head off for their day. And as I pulled into the driveway, one of the women came away from that group, and she introduced herself as the director of the Early Learning Centre, threw her cigarette on the ground and stubbed it out with her shoe, and then let me into the centre. That was 20 years later. And I'm thinking, this is not doing a lot for the professionalism of our industry, is it?
Yeah.
And then all of these people that were out on the footpath, they all came in, and they, of course, they'd all been smoking, so they all smelled of cigarettes. And we actually had a really good professional development session, by the way. They were actually very enthusiastic, and they were really onto it. They were actually very good. But the first impression, and that's what I think we have to be very mindful of as early childhood professionals, the first impression has to be professional. Otherwise, you can't blame people for thinking we're just glorified babysitters, really. So that brings me to the point, well, are we professional enough? And what do we do then to present a more professional viewpoint to those who are looking at us and those who are trusting us with their children day after day? Because, you know, that's a big thing as a parent, to hand your child over to somebody to take care of them for the whole day and hope that they're not only going to be looked after and cared for and safe, that they're actually going to learn something too. So that's a really big deal. And my question is, are we doing enough to promote that confidence in society? Are we doing enough to have that professional persona around us? And then the other questions that come with that are, well, what does that actually even look like? What does it look like to be a professional educator? So can I ask you, what does that actually look like? What does a professional early childhood educator look like? Like, how would they dress? What would they do?
Anyone?
Would they wear little t-shirts and tracky dacks?
I think a bit more professional.
Mei Yang is there? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Dave, you're saying something.
Yeah, no, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, just proper, like, black pants and, you know, the shirt, like a polo tee that matches the color of the school, you know, like the branding colors and shoes. And of course, not carrying a cigarette around.
Yeah.
That's a deal breaker. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Where you can go.
That's right.
Actually, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Just 1 second, sir. We'll get Mei Yang to say first, and then I'll come to you.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's more interest and love for the child. I think this is how we bring our children to the school, and we as parents or as educator, this is the first impression, because even you cover your, I think that is authentic. It comes from the heart of the educator. That is the most stunning thing as an educator.
I think you're right about the first impression, Mei Yang, and that's what I say to my university students too, that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a good one.
Yeah.
Arun, you had a question.
So I sort of question whether the first impression really matters, because so like if you look at things from a different point of view, right, you have lecturers in university or Harvard who do come for their lectures in a very relaxed attire, but people don't question whether or not they are, you know, professional or not, because they understand what these lecturers do. They understand the competence that is involved in that. So I'm not so convinced that the first impression or, you know, the appearance is what is the problem. My suspicion is that people don't understand what it is that early childhood educators do and why it is important. And that's systemic. So I wonder what you all think about that.
I think you've got a point, Arun, in that it's not just about the clothes that you wear. It's about wearing clothes that are appropriate for the job that you do. So, you know, for we women, you know, if we're wearing dresses or skirts and we're crawling around on the floor with children, that's probably not the most appropriate. So to be neat and tidy, and, you know, just neat and tidy, and, you know, look like you're not just gotten out of bed, you know.
Yes.
Sort of take a bit of effort in how you look, and a bit of pride in your look. But it's not just that. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about the language that you use. It's about your persona. It's about the knowledge. It's about the the way you speak to the children and the way you speak to the parents, and your ability to explain things that shows that you're knowledgeable and that you have an understanding of that professional development. And I think too that it's difficult now with parents too to understand that, particularly now with COVID, where a lot of parents aren't allowed into the classrooms. And depending on where you are in the world, you've got different regulations, and some children are back at school and some aren't at school. Here in Australia, most of the children are back at school, but the parents still aren't allowed into the school. So they have to drop them off at the gate and say goodbye to their children. So the parents don't actually get into the classroom to see what to see what the teachers are actually doing. So in some ways we have to, as teachers, we need to drop that fourth wall. And by saying that, I mean take the fourth wall of our classroom away, so we've only got 3, and allow the parents to see in what we're doing. So build those relationships by regular newsletters or regular types of communication, so that we can start to become a closer partnership and build that understanding, so that parents become confident with the teachers, and they're confident that the teachers know what they're doing. And that comes back to that professionalism. It's the way we talk, it's the way we hold ourselves, it's the way we look, it's the way we walk, and it's the way that we manage the children. And if we can do that, if we can build those strong partnerships, and we can instill that confidence in the parents that we as educators and teachers know what we're doing, well, that's a big step, I think, into being seen as a more professional sector of the education, and the importance that we hold in nurturing these young children. Because with the young children, what we want to do is make sure that they have a love of learning, and they want to continue to learn, and we're developing them holistically, not just the academic skills, as many of you have already said. So I think there's a few things there that, a few tips, and even being able to offer more professional development opportunities for early childhood educators, so that they can publicise that, oh yeah, I'm going to this PD session and I've just learned this at this PD session or at this workshop, so that they're articulating the extra learning that they're doing. So, that's important too, because that's all about promotion, and it's all about building that understanding and building that perspective from the parents, so that they have that understanding. The children too then change their attitude toward the teachers, because the parents now respect the teachers, so then the children do too. So it's a combined respect and combined confidence that they have in the teachers. So I think it's sort of multi-pronged. And if we aren't cognizant of that, if we're not thinking about those sorts of things, well, then we will be seen as glorified babysitters, because we're not seen as doing any professional development. We're not building understanding. We're not showing people all the things that we do. We're not showing them that when we're teaching the children online for just 1 hour a day, that then we don't go and just put our feet up and have a cup of coffee. That because we're planning, we're designing things for the next day, we're working on other things, so that tomorrow we can have another really great 1 hour with the kids online, or in the classroom situation. All of the, you know what it's like. You prepare so many things. You do so much more above and beyond the hours that were actually paid. But parents don't see that. So it's building that understanding, so that parents do see all of the work that we do, and all of the assessment and all of the observations, and everything that we do in a day that isn't obvious.
I think one of the things that Arun, you brought up that was very important is basically you don't know what is happening in the early childhood sector. When it comes to the Harvard professor part, right? There's a professor called Walter Levin, and he works in MIT. Dresses weird, falls down all the time, breaks a lot of stuff in the classroom and everything. Now, if he does it in MIT, now sometimes it's seen as cool. But if you do it somewhere else, let's say you do it in another university, unknown, somewhere else, people will start looking at that and saying, wait, he's clumsy. Because MIT and Harvard has got this name. It's got this like, you know what, if people in MIT and Harvard do it, there must be a reason they do it. But this guy just looks clumsy. And that is, in a way, it is also an impression. It may not be the first impression, but an impression that Harvard has built over, God knows, like 100 years. But the more important question you asked, which is something that we really have to step up in the game, which is people just don't know what's happening in early childhood education. People just don't know. And that's why, again and again, we are seen as babysitters. It's not, I don't think it's about the clothes, personally. I don't think it is about agreeing with you to a certain extent, Arun. Is like not so much about the first impression, but every single time, I'm a father of 2 and I've got a third one coming up soon. So I'll be doing this all over again. When I went into what you call early childhood centers, they showed me the center. Okay. It is like you telling people that I want to watch football, and instead of showing me the game, you're showing me the stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we lack so much professionalism that we are not even confident to face the parents and say, this is what I'm going to do for your kid. We don't do that. We say, this is my building. Would you like to take a look at that? Because I've got air conditioning here. I've got the cushions over here. I have the computers here and the projectors here. And I think that the moment we do that, which is unfortunately the first impression, even though you're decked out in Gucci and Chanel, I think the first impression has completely gone wrong.
Yes, because it's more, as I was saying, it's more than just what you're wearing or not wearing.
Yeah.
It's the way you carry yourself, and the way you talk to the parents, and the way you talk to the children.
Yeah.
And the obvious knowledge that you have, and using the correct terminology and those sorts of things. And Gabriel, I know what you're saying about the centres, because sometimes there's tours. They take parents around the centres, and they only show the parents the room that their child will be in. So if it's a baby, they only show them the baby room. They don't show them the whole centre and the progression of learning that will take place if your child is there for 5 or 6 years or whatever it might be. And that's another downfall. I actually did my doctoral thesis on the decision-making process that parents use when they're selecting an early childhood centre. And there was a whole range of things that parents look for. One of them was the way that the early childhood educators spoke to not only them when they came to interview or came to sort of check out the place, but the way they spoke to the children, or if they even bothered to speak to the child during the tour. And they sort of said, well, if they can't be bothered talking to my child when I've just come to visit, well, it's probably not going to be the place for us, because there's no real interest in my child. It's all about me and the fees I'm going to pay. And there's a whole range of other things as well that we haven't got time to go into now, but it was, interesting to see it from the parents' perspective.
Yeah. I think there's room for a lot of change, because I always tell young parents and young people the story of how my father, when he used to come visit a school or something like that, he'll be very nervous. I'm going to visit my son's school, and he'll be very nervous, and there'll be so much respect for the educator, and then there's today. Today, they walk in as if, it's like an entitlement, it's authority, and it has changed. So, and it's extremely damaging to our profession. And that is really the reason why we are gathering together in groups of 10, 12, 15 every week, because the time has come for us to uplift this profession. We've got to change the way we work. We've got to change the way we present ourselves. Early childhood education is the starting point, because the parental conditioning over here, if it's not done correctly, they get conditioned for all the wrong things year in, year out.
Exactly.
Yeah, year in, year out. And then parents will start talking along the lines of, so what do you exactly do? Because they don't know anymore. So they ask the really, really ridiculously silly questions. I think one of the sessions should be dedicated to the most ridiculous questions parents have asked. I think
it's not only that though. They can also, some parents get quite aggressive and quite accusatory of the teachers for not taking better care of their child. My son is a grade 1 teacher, and I was talking to him about this topic today, and he said that he in his colleague's class, a little girl had a broken arm, and she went home and told her parents that 16 people were hitting her on her arm and hurting her arm. And so the parent got very irate and went to the teacher and said, "How dare you not look after my child?" and blah, 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 went on and on and on. What actually happened was the little girl was playing with one little boy, and he tapped on her arm, and then she tapped on his arm, and that was it. But the parent took the side of her 6-year-old and accused the teacher of not doing her job well. And again, this is a bigger story than just now, this little conversation, but it's, what is that saying about society, and what is that saying about the respect that we have, as you said, Gabriel, the respect we have for teachers and the way we approach teachers. Yes. Now, just before we finish up, I just wondered if we could start to compile a bit of a list as to what we can do to raise the impression of professionalism for the early childhood sector. You know, I've mentioned a couple of things like lower the fourth wall, so let people see what's going on in the classroom, and so we can raise our profile a little bit. And for educators to go to some professional development sessions and workshops and advertise that that's what they're doing, and saying, you know, I won't be in tomorrow because I'm going to learn about literacy, you know, and actually, you know, promote that a little bit. I also said about having that regular and clear communication with parents, whether it be a newsletter or whether it be some other formal way of doing it, particularly now when parents aren't always in the classroom or don't have the opportunity to go into the classroom. And talking and using different language. So not saying, oh yeah, the kids were just playing all day. We had such a good day playing today. Use the language of, yeah, today we were in the sandpit and we were experimenting about absorption with water and sand. Or we were doing some experimentation with colour today. Instead of saying, oh yeah, we did some painting, we mixed some colours. You know, change the language so that we're upping the ante, so that we're not talking in a basic level, we're talking about the learning that's going on in our centre. And of course, we're going to be caring for the children as well, because it's care and education. But if we start changing the language and talking to the children in the same way, the children go home and over dinner they say, oh yeah, we were learning about, you know, water absorption in the sandpit. You know, they'll start to use the same language that the teacher is using. And so all of a sudden, the parents are hearing about all of this learning that's going on, not all of this playing that's going on. So that in itself raises our standard and raises the game a little bit. And being mindful about the way we talk and the way we look and the way we hold ourselves, you know, and stand tall, make eye contact, smile at people, and be friendly with the parents so that we seem to be approachable. So that if there is an issue, they will come to us, and they will come to us with confidence because we've built those relationships with them. So I'm wondering if anybody has anything you'd like to add to that really short list that I've just rattled off there.
Okay. I support Dr. Kathryn so much because I've been in this area. I've been training teachers. I mean, I try to instill a passion in early childhood educator themselves, but then what caught me is like really when I was starting my studies in early childhood in education itself. One of my lecturer was quoting Avicenna quote. He says that to be a teacher, we must know how to stand, how to eat, how to sit, how to stand, how to talk properly, because we've been watched all the time. So I really hold into it. As an educator, we need to do that. I mean, like for my first impression for early childhood educator, whether they bend down for my kids or not. I mean, like whether they lower themselves or not. You know, that is my key point to see whether are they going to be a good teacher or not. Because when you are early childhood educator, you lower yourself to the kid level to talk. Yeah,
exactly.
So
get down to their level. Exactly.
Yes, we don't talk like that. We lower ourselves. So that is the key to be a professional, and doesn't matter what you wear, but your attitude counts. Like yeah.
I think we have to wear clothing that suits our job. So as I said, if you're female, you wouldn't be wearing a short skirt or a low cut top, you know. And if you're a male,
decent. Like, I must say that
if you're a male, you'd be wearing, you know, like, you know, I don't know, like trousers or something like that. That's looking like, and Dave said, maybe a polo shirt, not, you know, not super casual, but not over the top either. Just something that's neat and tidy and appropriate for the job that you're doing.
Some of the things that we wanted to add on, and what we have always been focused on as far as teachers training is concerned, is first of all is personal mastery, we call it emotional intelligence and mindfulness.
Yes.
I think at least 4 to 5 days per year has to be dedicated towards you reinventing yourself and you finding yourself all over again. You know, and because we are working with kids, and because we're working with kids, we have to be at our creative best all the time, and that is the challenge that we have to live up to. You know, so that is one of the things that we've always focused on. The other thing is skills development, because we cannot teach our children the same way we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was born into technology. I was born after technology. Technology was born into my life. You know, so only after I was born, technology came into my life. The latest technology, I mean, your iPhones and everything. Whereas the kids of today are born into technology.
Yeah.
Almost at 6 months, they're looking at an iPhone. Right. And it's a different world, whether we like it or not. A lot of parents go around saying things like, you need to take this away, you need to take that away, screen time has to be taken away, and we have all failed miserably. So the idea here is to develop the skill set that allow us to work in an environment that is for the future. That is the second thing that we always have worked on. And the third thing is leadership, because we're not focusing on leadership within us, but we are the enablers of tomorrow's leaders. You know, so we've got to build an environment where those leaders can step up as well. So we've always worked on these 3 areas when it comes to teachers training, not so much as to curriculum development or anything like that, but it's learning experience designs. I think what Dave and I, Ira and Haish, what we are working towards is the complete annihilation of curriculum and syllabus and introduction of learning experience designs. So just a change of word, but basically what we want to do is, I know there's a saying we follow: a change in learning is a change in behavior as a result of an experience. How do we create these experiences? How can a child go back and talk about what happened in classroom and not point at a book, which happens in Singapore a lot, you know? So that's really what we worked on. For those people who are in Singapore, visit us. We have a lot of sharing sessions on our Saturday mornings. For those of you around the world, join us every Wednesday. And Kathryn, you are an absolutely amazing human being. Please do more. Let's work together. Let's do the wildest, craziest learning experience for educators in Bali this year. Maybe not this year, maybe January 2022. Everybody gets vaccinated first.
Yeah.
Join us.
I'm there.
Yeah, join us, because I'm telling you, you would have never, it'll be 7 days of craziness. Okay, 7 days of craziness in Bali. You'll be teaching every day. Nobody will be talking. Okay, you'll be either in the swimming pool teaching, or you'll be in the forest teaching, or you'll be in the jungles teaching, or you'll be in some sort of a school in Bali teaching. And it's going to be like I said, it's going to be like the master chef of education. And we started this a year ago. It was very, very upsetting that COVID came in, you know, more than a year ago, right, guys? About 18 months ago. And we're excited. We are going to get some of the best people on board. And again, let me repeat this. It's not going to be Kathryn talk and you listen. It's going to be you doing everything and we just looking at you and saying, wow, and then cheer you on. You know, and Education Superheroes is very personal to us. We want as many educators as possible to come on board, join this community, because we are bringing this community to schools right now. Right, so schools are asking me a lot of questions. Gabriel, the parent-student relationship sucks. The parent-teacher relationship is horrible. Can we do something about this virtually at least? You know, so we are planning for that. I would love for all of you to be a part of it, because that's really what drives Education Superheroes, because it's community-based. Right, we are working. If you follow our LinkedIn and our Facebook, you'll realize that we do a lot of cool stuff. And we want all of you to be a part of it. The goal is to connect students and educators around the world through learning. We feel that we're on the right path. And I thank you, all of you, for coming today. Any final words from any one of you? Before we take a picture, we take a group picture. I think Rajda is the only one who's not on camera, but we'll take a group picture together, put on your best smile. And if it is okay, you can share your email addresses and your phone numbers, and we will kind of connect you all in a WhatsApp group, or we can send you all emails. Take a look at it. But if you don't want to hear from us, also let us know. Okay, also let us know. So very quick picture, everybody together. Okay, we'll say happy. 1, 2, 3. We'll say happy birthday. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday.
Is
the picture done?
Okay. So thank you very much. God bless you guys. Have a good evening. Rest early. Those of you who are in Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia. If you're in the Netherlands, I think you still got time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but let's connect, all of you guys. Azura as well. Let's connect. God bless you guys. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.